Welcome to the Alphagenix Podcast, where every week we speak to incredible guests from the world of health, well-being, supplementation, biohacking, and of course, men's health. So I'm delighted today to introduce the incredible Will Polston. Will, we've been connected in the world of Facebook and Instagram for many, many years. And of course, most of that was due to your work in the self-development world. But today we're going to talk about something. We'll talk about that as well, I'm sure, but we're talking about your new endeavor. Say hi.
So yeah, thank you very much. Great to be on the show, and thank you for having me. And yeah, really looking forward to speaking about it and getting into things.
Awesome. And what this podcast is about is it's about health at the end of the day. So we talk about nutrition, we talk about sleep, we talk about exercise. Big thing is supplementation as well. And you're involved in that now, aren't you? I remember seeing last year a post on your social media saying something exciting is coming soon. I thought, well, he's already passed his pilot's license, or he's going through that. Can't be that. What's next? And it turned out to be medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah, it did indeed. So it's interesting you make reference to kind of how we originally met through the world of personal development, because that's still very much at the heart of everything that I do. You know, I talk about my mission in life is to empower people to transform excuses into results and live a life that they love. You know, it really does sit at the heart of everything that I do. And I'm a big fan of setting goals and doing those things, which is kind of really how the whole business came about. So for people that don't know, I run a number of different businesses, one of which is a coaching and training company, but they're service-based businesses. And one of the goals that I set myself about 3 years ago was to create a product-based business. For the simple reason being, it was different, it was a challenge, and I thought it'd be something fun to do. And at the time, as I tend to do, when I've got goals that I haven't got clear on, I kind of leave them as broad goals. So it was literally have a product-based business within 3 years. Didn't know what it was going to be, didn't know what that might consist of, but it would be something. One of the things that I'm a fan of doing is leveraging other resources that I have. You know, I always joke, sort of deep down, I'm a very lazy person. I'm always trying to find the kind of least path of resistance. And when I was thinking about, well, what would be a product that would I could leverage my existing audience, my existing connections, my existing network, but was still aligned with the mission. And the thing that kind of come up was supplements. What it could be some kind of supplement. And I kind of specialize in really working with a demographic of business owners and entrepreneurs that are normally lost, frustrated, stressed, you know, anxious, really kind of unfulfilled. They're not necessarily in the best of places when we start working together. And there was a particular guy I was working with, a client of mine, and a very successful guy, but he was sort of having some challenges. But one of the things he kept talking about was how he had this brain fog. You know, he was like, I've got this brain fog, Will. You know, I don't know what I could do. But sort of a couple of weeks later, he came back to me and said, I've been taking this stuff called lion's mane. I went, oh, right. Never heard of it. He said, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. But there's only one downside to it. And that's that I need to import it over from America. And that's really kind of how it all started.
Wow. And yeah, I guess before we get into that, we can touch again on your work in the personal development space. And you talked about, who you work with, and you could think about, I guess, the diet that we have as everything that goes into our body. So that is what goes into our mind and also what goes into our body as nutrition. Nutrition is often lacking, I think, these days. We've got a fast-paced, convenient diet, especially if you think the people you work with, high stress, entrepreneurs, CEOs, business people, they're often eating on the go, not getting the supplementation they need, or not getting the nutrition they need. So improving the diet, improving what goes into their mind with some of your work, and then improving with supplementation, you can really see how that works together. So lion's mane then is something that not everyone might have heard of. And do you want to explain a little bit about it? Is it a plant? Is it a root? What is it?
Yeah, so it is a mushroom. and it is a mushroom. Most of us, when we think of mushrooms, we think of kind of the kind that we might get on a breakfast plate or something, or we have kind of with dinner. And there's lots of different types of mushrooms, but the reason we use the term medicinal mushrooms, which medicinal mushrooms are very different to magic mushrooms, which again is the association that a lot of people have that have the psychedelic qualities. The a sort of a medicinal mushroom is essentially a functional food, and a functional food is a food that has benefit beyond its nutritional properties. And that's essentially what lion's mane is. Lion's mane is a mushroom. Most people would have never have seen it because it doesn't look like your stereotypical mushroom, which you would see. If you think back to the one that most people think of, like a typical oyster mushroom, it's got a big head and then sort of a stalk. Whereas a lion's mane mushroom has its name because it looks exactly like that. It literally looks like a big ball of spikes. I mean, they're not spikes at all, the spines, they're actually very, very flexible and they're almost rubber like. It's a shame I've not got one to show as an example, but it's very, very different. Traditionally, that they will grow on oak, so you do get them over here in the UK. They are actually a protected species, but traditionally kind of mainly from over sort of in the Far East, and they've got some incredible properties.
Wow, yeah, I've seen your pictures online, and they kind of look like they're from an alien planet. They don't look anything like a mushroom, as you say. But so you said they're from the Far East. They're grown now in America. You sometimes get them here, which is amazing.
Yeah, you do. Over here, they're protected. So to go and pick them from the wild, I mean, you can see them. If you go into a woods that's full of oak trees, you can see them growing. They're also like a chalk kind of color. So again, they're like a lot of mushrooms are, but really, really quite visually appealing and different because of the way that they grow, almost like a giant big sponge almost, is how kind of size wise of what they'll actually look like. But yeah, that's kind of what they are. And the thing that really spiked my interest was this client of mine who I really respected. He was taking them, and he said within a matter of days he was feeling different. And you've already mentioned sort of the benefits of supplementation, and I think that so many things in life, if we do the basics and we get the basics right, a lot of that can take care of a lot of stuff. Eating a whole food, nutritious diet, getting an appropriate amount of exercise, getting enough water, and getting enough sleep. And meditation, for me, the power of meditation is just a simple exercise, 10 minutes a day can work wonders. But then if we want to build on build on from that, then it's going to make a big difference. But they're never going to they're never going to really help somebody that hasn't got those fundamentals right. If you're sleeping 1 hour or 2 hours a night, it doesn't matter what you do, nothing is going to be as good as getting a decent night's sleep. So that's kind of the focus. So I see it as an optimizer. It's going to optimize you to improve and be at your best, as opposed to supplement the foundations.
Yeah, it's not magic. When we teach the same things as well at Alphagenix. You can, if you want to sit on the sofa and eat pizza, it doesn't matter how much testosterone you inject into yourself, you're still never going to feel great. But if you eat right, sleep right, protect your mind with mindfulness, meditation, positive prayer, whatever it might be, and get the right exercise, it can be transformational. And I think, and we talk a lot as well about the supplementation that can then give you that extra 1%, 2% to, as you say, to optimize someone, which is where lion's mane, I think, comes in. And has it always been recognized for its medicinal qualities? Is this something that goes back a long way, or is this something new?
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back thousands of years, but like so many things that come kind of out of the Far East, in the Western world, we have a very different view of it. So yeah, it absolutely is. And I think a lot of the research now, and this is the key, is that a lot of the research, the studies that are coming out, people are becoming more open to and saying, actually, yeah, this isn't kind of voodoo Chinese medicine. This is something that can really have a big impact and make a huge difference. And that's something that we've really strived to do, and is really kind of what's found our position in the marketplace. Because if we use lion's mane as an example, the majority of studies will say that taking between 1,000 milligrams and 3,000 milligrams of lion's mane a day can have the benefits of improved memory, improved mood, and then obviously it can have the benefits of better focus. So there's that cognitive function. That's really what lion's mane is predominantly known for. It can have immunity benefits as well, because it's an adaptogenic mushroom. So therefore, the impact that it has at a cellular level on kind of the sort of the stressors, it can have an impact there. But it's mainly known as kind of the mushroom for cognitive function. But what a lot of these other companies have done is, I kind of refer to them as the marketing companies, is that they've realized that this is the case. They take the mushroom at its wet weight, and they advertise on their product that it's 1,500 milligrams or whatever, which is within that 1,000 and 3,000 milligrams a day. And then they dehydrate it. And then when they dehydrate it, obviously it's no longer 1,500 milligrams. It ends up being like a tenth of that. And it very often is a tenth or a 12th of that. So that then you might end up be taking 150 milligrams of lion's mane because it's dehydrated. So what we wanted to do when we realized this was the case, we wanted to create something that was grown in here in the UK. So we wasn't just white labeling something from over in China. We wanted to make it organic, so we get all Soil Association organic certified, and then make sure that it was at the appropriate sort of strength for people to really get the noticeable benefits, with no fillers, no bulkers, to really give us that product that we could feel proud of.
I love that. And did you start taking it as well? So did you, after you heard from your friend and he said, look, this is
absolutely this. I'm a kind of a bit of a geek, you know. I've kind of I am one of those guys that I suppose would I class myself as a biohacker? No, but I suppose by most people's definition, I am. I do my best to keep what I call the foundations in place, and I do strive for those 1%, whatever that might look like. You know, 5 years ago, I gave up drinking alcohol. I do my best to keep certain things in check, and will play around with a lot of different things to find out what works for me, and I do that, and started thinking, wow, yeah, this really does make a difference. And then we kind of wanted to embark on this opportunity to bring something to the market in the UK which we felt didn't exist. And the reason I say which we felt that didn't exist for the market was a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs, are business people, that they've got very busy lives. And one of the things that I'm an absolute fiend for is efficiency. I want to be as efficient as possible. How can I get the result as quickly, efficiently, and effectively as possible? Whilst there were some other great brands in the UK, and they are absolutely great brands, that were that were selling it as a coffee or a tea. I don't drink coffee. Most of the time I don't drink coffee. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a tea, and the idea of making a mess every morning didn't really appeal to me, whereas taking 2 capsules, which I could take, was much more appealing. So I was thinking of there's going to be a lot of other people like me, even though I've got my wheatgrass, you know, that might be there. If it's not in capsule form, I don't take it because I don't want to make the mess and can't be bothered, frankly, with dealing with that. So yeah, it was kind of seeing the opportunities that we could take and kind of run with that.
Brilliant. I think you mentioned, you know, you wouldn't call yourself a biohacker, but I think a lot of the things that drive biohacking is speed, it's convenience, it's laziness, it's you know, it's what's the quickest, easiest, most efficient way to get the maximum amount from my body. So I guess in many ways, as you say, you know, some people would look at what you've done and say, well, it's a classic biohack, if you like, you know, a faster way to improve cognition, 2 tablets in the morning. Well, actually, that's a good point. Is it best to take them in the morning on an empty stomach, or do you take it with food, or does it matter?
Yeah, so great question. We suggest taking it in the morning, and yeah, on an empty stomach. But the the reason for that is that if you want better cognitive function, in my opinion, I mean, whilst it's not something like a coffee which you take and you instantly get the benefits, generally most people between a week to 3 weeks, they're really seeing the benefits. Some people quite a bit sooner. It's not like taking a pre-workout. You take a pre-workout, 30 minutes later, you're really noticing the benefits. It's something that kind of builds up over a period of time. But yeah, for me, I would much rather have that cognitive that if I'm going to have improved cognitive function, I would much rather have that when I'm awake than when I'm asleep. So that's the that's the way I see it. And so that's
makes
kind of
sense.
how we suggest, and people can play around, whilst, with our particular product, we recommend taking 2 capsules a day. They're 900 milligram capsules. That's 1800 milligrams in total. Some people take more. I personally take 3 capsules a day, but that's down to kind of individuals and depending on what people want to do to be able to play with it. The thing that I say, and I think this is the part that has really made the difference for so many people, is taking them and then stopping. I call it the stop test, because if you're someone that regularly exercises and you exercise, I don't know, you've been exercising for a minimum of 12 weeks. So you're kind of into your rhythm, 2, 3, 4 times a week, you're kind of into it. If at that point you decide to stop exercising, you start feeling lethargic, you don't have as much energy, you can tell the difference. Now, it's not that that's a bad thing per se, because if you never exercised before, you would have never experienced the benefits and the endorphins and all the rest of the things of exercising. It's just what's happened is you've now got a new baseline. You've got a new understanding of what's possible for you. And that's kind of how I explain it to people. It's not like when, for example, you take coffee and then you stop taking coffee, you end up with withdrawal symptoms. But you just do have a kind of a noticeable difference.
Yeah, I guess in a very similar way to your exercise, your supplement or any supplement, it's going to give gradual benefits. It's going to build up, isn't it, slowly? And so that's kind of imperceptible. You don't really notice. So you get better and better and better. Relatively, it hasn't been a noticeable change. So you might think it's not working, but when you stop and it isn't in the body anymore, you're like, whoa, no, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
I felt a lot better before. With the lion's mane, what's your company called? If people want to search for you, where do they find you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's called 22. So the company's called 22. And I often get asked, and they can find us at 22.co.uk or Google. So it's my22.co.uk is the actual website, but the company's called 22. Sort of my22 Instagram and all those sort of social channels. But I quite often get asked why 22, and I think this is the perfect example. I love telling this story because most people don't know about it. It's the perfect example of actually being in business as well and kind of having sort of an entrepreneurial journey. When we first started out, we wanted to be called mycology. So ology being the study of, and mycology, so being essentially the study of fungi. That's kind of what mycology is. And we thought, this is amazing. It's great. Yep, let's go. We started getting all the branding underway, but we made the kind of rookie error of not realizing that there was already a company that had mycology in their name. It wasn't just the brand, but within part of their branding that they had already trademarked. But the reason I find that such a fantastic thing is because my office, so they could have been anywhere in the world. The person that was the director of the company's house is literally 300 meters away from my office. It could have been anywhere in the world, and that was the case. And I live in Chelmsford in Essex, and it was actually a Chinese sort of big Chinese company that had a UK sort of operation here, and we're based in Chelmsford. I just think that's absolutely crazy. The chances of it. Wow. But so we were wondering what should we call it, and in Chinese numerology, the number 22 means fulfilling your full potential. So that's basically why we went down the route of using the number 22, because that's essentially what we're using lion's mane and the medicinal mushrooms to be able to do. So we've launched with lion's mane, But within the next couple of years, we will also be releasing reishi, which is really good for relaxation, cordyceps, which is really good for kind of energy and sort of improving in your energy levels, and then turkey tail, which is really good for immunity. So we've got 3 other medicinal mushrooms kind of in the pipeline, but we're focusing on lion's mane for the time being.
Fantastic. That was actually going to be my next question. What's coming next? Because I have cordyceps in my coffee, actually, and you do notice definitely, because coffee, I gave it up years ago, and then during COVID I started drinking it again and quite got back into just the taste, but I've never ever got that sort of buzz from it. It never really massively wakes me up, although of course it's having a stimulant effect. But this coffee, 4-sigmatic, I think it's called, something like that, with cordyceps in it, I notice it. Like the cognitive improvement is quite noticeable. It's quite incredible, really. So I shall wait with bated breath until that one comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that's something that for us, the opportunity to be able to expand out is I mean, there's so many different types of mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms, but for us it comes back to that same principle. How can we get people the product that's going to get them the best results the fastest, based on kind of where they're at, which is the focus in terms of moving that forward.
So do you think will it always stay within the world of mycology though, or are you looking at other natural ways to supplement?
Well, this is the first time that I've ever said this publicly, which I'm happy to do. So I have, I think it's about 6 years. So it was about 6 years ago, I first had my mind opened to life longevity. And it was actually a webinar with Tony Robbins and Peter Diamandis at the time, back in 2017. I remember it was December 2017, and I was actually early for an event, and for an event I had, and I sat there on my laptop recording this webinar, and it just opened my mind up to life longevity. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. Like, how do more people not know about this? And over a course of a few years, I've been gradually, just as a personal kind of hobby really, and personal interest, been keeping more and more of a focus on that. And one of the things that we've spoken about, obviously the company's 22, but my business partner and I, when we founded it, we're both 33. And we thought, well, how cool would it be to then maybe have another brand that would be called 33, which is about, from us, which is kind of how can we stay biologically the age at 33 as we continue to get chronologically older. And that was it. So whether we fold that into 22, whether we decide to have a different brand, which is 33, who knows? Who knows at this stage? We don't know, but it's definitely an area that is becoming it's becoming more and more of an interest of mine. I think that's partly down to the deeper knowledge and more understanding I've got of it. The more I'm realizing this is one of those things, what it's like, Ross, you come across something that you think's incredible, you just want to tell as many people about it as possible. It's like, why do more people not know about this? And that's kind of the route that we're starting to consider.
Have you come across peptide bioregulators?
No.
So this is fascinating. This will blow your mind then if you're into longevity. So these have been studied for 40, 50 years in Russia by the Russian military. One of the main doctors over there was a guy called Kavinson. So Ben Greenfield, I'm sure you've come across, talks about the Kavinson protocol. And peptide neuroregulators are specific to individual organs within the body. I'm on day 9 today of a 10-day course of the pineal gland peptide bioregulator. And for those more spiritual people watching, as I think I know you are, the pineal gland is the seat of our third eye and consciousness. But in all the studies that have been done by the Russian military, this particular peptide actually looks like it lengthens or rather slows the degradation of the telomeres on the end of your chromosomes. So it delays the aging process. And they've demonstrated this in lab tests on rats and things over the years. So peptide bioregulators are something really interesting part of longevity medicine.
Yeah, I must admit, I've not come across that specifically, or at least if in anything that I've kind of been learning, it's not stood out. But yeah, it does sound, yeah, that definitely sounds something
Google
to
it later. The Cavenson
yeah,
protocol.
have a look.
Yeah. Well, Will, it's been an absolute pleasure. I loved every minute. Lion's mane supplements are definitely something that we'll have to talk about more again in the future. I know a lot of our listeners will probably be having a look at your shop and seeing where they can get them, including me. But it's been a real pleasure, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
My pleasure. No, thank you very much for having me. What I was going to say is what we'll do is we'll set up an Alphagenix discount code. So anybody that's listened to the show, they get 20% off their first order. And yeah, we can get that set up. So if anybody wants to try them or they're curious, then just type in Alphagenix as a discount code, and then we can get that set up as a little token of our appreciation for listening to the show.
Fantastic. I really appreciate it. Well, take care and have a great day.
Speak soon. Bye for now.